Listening practice, storytelling. The little yellow tulip. Once there was a little yellow tulip, and she lived down in a little dark house, under the ground. One day, she was sitting there, all by herself, and it was very still. Suddenly, she heard a little tap, 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 at the door. "Who is that?" she said. "It's the rain, and I want to come in," said a soft, sad, little voice. "No, you can't come in," the little tulip said. By and by, she heard another little tap, tap, tap on the window pane. "Who is there?" she said. The same soft little voice answered, "It's the rain, and I want to come in." "No, you can't come in," said the little tulip. Then it was very still for a long time. At last, there came a little rustling, whispering sound, all round the window. Rustle, whisper, whisper. "Who is there?" said the little tulip. "It's the sunshine," said a little, soft, cheery voice, "and I want to come in." "No," said the little tulip, "you can't come in," and she sat still again. Pretty soon, she heard the sweet little rustling noise at the keyhole. "Who is there?" she said. "It's the sunshine," said the cheery little voice, "and I want to come in, I want to come in." "No, no," said the little tulip. "You cannot come in." By and by, as she sat so still, she heard tap, 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 and rustle, whisper, rustle, up and down the window pane, and on the door and at the keyhole. "Who is there?" she said. "It's the rain and the sun, the rain and the sun," said two little voices, together, "and we want to come in. We want to come in. We want to come in." "Dear, dear," said the little tulip. "If there are two of you, I suppose, I shall have to let you in." So she opened the door a little wee crack, and they came in. And one took one of her little hands, and the other took her other little hand, and they ran, ran, ran with her right up to the top of the ground. Then they said, "Poke your head through." So, she poked her head through, and she was in the midst of a beautiful garden. It was early springtime, and few other flowers were to be seen, but she had the birds to sing to her, and the sun to shine upon her pretty yellow head. She was so pleased, too, when the children exclaimed with pleasure that now they knew that the beautiful spring had come. Listening practice. Storytelling. The cloud. One hot summer morning, a little cloud rose out of the sea and floated lightly and happily across the blue sky. Far below lay the earth, brown, dry, and desolate, from drought. The little cloud could see the poor people of the earth working and suffering in the hot fields, while she herself floated on the morning breeze, hither and thither, without a care. "Oh, if I could only help the poor people down there," she thought. "If I could but make their work easier, or give the hungry ones food, or the thirsty a drink." And as the day passed, and the cloud became larger, this wish to do something for the people of earth was ever greater in her heart. On earth it grew hotter and hotter. The sun burned down so fiercely that the people were fainting in its rays. It seemed as if they must die of heat, and yet they were obliged to go on with their work, for they were very poor. Sometimes they stood and looked up at the cloud, as if they were praying, and saying, "Ah, if you could help us." "I will help you, I will," said the cloud. And she began to sink softly down toward the earth. But suddenly, as she floated down, she remembered something which had been told her when she was a tiny cloud child, in the lap of Mother Ocean. It had been whispered that if the clouds go too near the earth they die. When she remembered this, she held herself from sinking, and swayed here and there on the breeze, thinking. But at last she stood quite still, and spoke boldly and proudly. She said, "Men of earth, I will help you, come what may." The thought made her suddenly marvelously big and strong and powerful. Never had she dreamed that she could be so big. Like a mighty angel of blessing she stood above the earth, and lifted her head and spread her wings far over the fields and woods. She was so great, so majestic, that men and animals were awe-struck at the sight. The trees and the grasses bowed before her. Yet all the earth creatures felt that she meant them well. "Yes, I will help you," cried the cloud once more. "Take me to yourselves, I will give my life for you." As she said the words, a wonderful light glowed from her heart, the sound of thunder rolled through the sky, and a love greater than words can tell filled the cloud. Down, down, close to the earth she swept, and gave up her life in a blessed, healing shower of rain. That rain was the cloud's great deed. It was her death, too. But it was also her glory. Over the whole countryside, as far as the rain fell, a lovely rainbow sprang its arch, and all the brightest rays of heaven made its colors. It was the last greeting of a love so great that it sacrificed itself. Soon that, too, was gone, but long, long afterward the men and animals who were saved by the cloud kept her blessing in their hearts. Listening practice. Storytelling. The Little Jackals and the Lion. Once there was a great big jungle, and in the jungle there was a great big lion, and the lion was king of the jungle. Whenever he wanted anything to eat, all he had to do was to come up out of his cave in the stones and earth and roar. When he had roared a few times, all the little people of the jungle were so frightened that they came out of their holes and hiding places and ran, this way and that, to get away. Then, of course, the lion could see where they were. And he pounced on them, killed them, and gobbled them up. He did this so often that at last there was not a single thing left alive in the jungle besides the lion, except two little jackals, a little father jackal and a little mother jackal. They had run away so many times that they were quite thin and very tired, and they could not run so fast any more. And one day the lion was so near that the little mother jackal grew frightened. She said, "Oh, Father Jackal, Father Jackal! I believe our time has come. The lion will surely catch us this time." "Pooh, nonsense, Mother," said the little Father Jackal. "Come, we'll run on a bit." And they ran very fast, and the lion did not catch them that time. But at last, a day came when the lion was nearer still, and the little mother jackal was frightened almost to death. "Oh, Father Jackal, Father Jackal," she cried, "I'm sure our time has come. The lion's going to eat us this time." "Now, Mother, don't you fret," said the little Father Jackal, "you do just as I tell you, and it will be all right." Then what did those cunning little jackals do but take hold of hands and run up towards the lion, as if they had meant to come all the time. When he saw them coming he stood up, and roared in a terrible voice, "You miserable little wretches, come here and be eaten, at once." "Why didn't you come before?" The father jackal bowed very low. "Indeed, Father Lion," he said, "we meant to come before, we knew we ought to come before, and we wanted to come before. But every time we started to come, a dreadful great lion came out of the woods and roared at us, and frightened us so that we ran away." "What do you mean?" roared the lion. "There's no other lion in this jungle, and you know it." "Indeed, indeed, Father Lion," said the little jackal, "I know that is what everybody thinks, but indeed and indeed there is another lion. And he is as much bigger than you as you are bigger than me. His face is much more terrible, and his roar far, far more dreadful. Oh, he is far more fearful than you." At that the lion stood up and roared so that the jungle shook. "Take me to this lion," he said, "I'll eat him up and then I'll eat you up." The little jackals danced on ahead, and the lion stalked behind. They led him to a place where there was a round, deep well of clear water. They went round on one side of it, and the lion stalked up to the other. "He lives down there, Father Lion," said the little jackal. "He lives down there." The lion came close and looked down into the water, and a lion's face looked back at him out of the water. When he saw that, the lion roared and shook his mane and showed his teeth. And the lion in the water shook his mane and showed his teeth. The lion above shook his mane again and growled again, and made a terrible face. But the lion in the water made just as terrible a one, back. The lion above couldn't stand that. He leapt down into the well after the other lion. But, of course, as you know very well, there wasn't any other lion. It was only the reflection in the water. So the poor old lion floundered about, and as he couldn't get up the steep sides of the well, he was at last drowned. And when he was drowned, the little jackals took hold of hands and danced round the well, and sang, "The lion is dead. The lion is dead. We have killed the great lion who would have killed us. The lion is dead. The lion is dead. Ow, ow, ow." Listening practice, storytelling. The Country Mouse and the City Mouse. Once a little mouse who lived in the country invited a little mouse from the city to visit him. When the little city mouse sat down to dinner, he was surprised to find that the country mouse had nothing to eat except barley and grain. "Really," he said, "you do not live well at all. You should see how I live. I have all sorts of fine things to eat every day. You must come to visit me and see how nice it is to live in the city." The little country mouse was glad to do this, and after a while, he went to the city to visit his friend. The very first place that the city mouse took the country mouse to see was the kitchen cupboard of the house where he lived. There, on the lowest shelf, behind some stone jars, stood a big paper bag of brown sugar. The little city mouse gnawed a hole in the bag and invited his friend to nibble for himself. The two little mice nibbled, and the country mouse thought he had never tasted anything so delicious in his life. He was just thinking how lucky the city mouse was, when suddenly the door opened with a bang, and in came the cook to get some flour. "Run," whispered the city mouse. And they ran as fast as they could to the little hole where they had come in. The little country mouse was shaking all over when they got safely away, but the little city mouse said, "That is nothing, she will soon go away and then we can go back." After the cook had gone away and shut the door, they stole softly back, and this time the city mouse had something new to show. He took the little country mouse into a corner on the top shelf, where a big jar of dried prunes stood open. After much tugging and pulling, they got a large dried prune out of the jar onto the shelf and began to nibble at it. This was even better than the brown sugar. The little country mouse liked the taste so much that he could hardly nibble fast enough. But all at once, in the midst of their eating, there came a scratching at the door and a sharp, loud meow. "What is that?" said the country mouse. The city mouse just whispered, "Shh," and ran as fast as he could to the hole. The country mouse ran after, you may be sure, as fast as he could. As soon as they were out of danger, the city mouse said, "That was the old cat. She is the best mouser in town. If she once gets you, you are lost." "This is very terrible," said the little country mouse. "Let us not go back to the cupboard again." "No," said the city mouse, "I will take you to the cellar, there is something specially fine there." So the city mouse took his little friend down the cellar stairs, and into a big cupboard where there were many shelves. On the shelves were jars of butter, and cheeses in bags and out of bags. Overhead hung bunches of sausages, and there were spicy apples in barrels standing about. It smelt so good that it went to the little country mouse's head. He ran along the shelf and nibbled at a cheese here, and a bit of butter there, until he saw an especially rich, very delicious-smelling piece of cheese on a queer little stand in a corner. He was just on the point of putting his teeth into the cheese when the city mouse saw him. "Stop, stop," cried the city mouse. "That is a trap." The little country mouse stopped and said, "What is a trap?" "That thing is a trap," said the little city mouse. "The minute you touch the cheese with your teeth, something comes down on your head hard, and you're dead." The little country mouse looked at the trap, and he looked at the cheese, and he looked at the little city mouse. "If you'll excuse me," he said, "I think I will go home. I'd rather have barley and grain to eat and eat it in peace and comfort, than have brown sugar and dried prunes and cheese, and be frightened to death all the time." So the little country mouse went back to his home, and there he stayed all the rest of his life. Listening practice. Storytelling. How Brother Rabbit Fooled the Whale and the Elephant. One day little Brother Rabbit was running along on the sand, when he saw the whale and the elephant talking together. Little Brother Rabbit crouched down and listened to what they were saying. This was what they were saying. "You are the biggest thing on the land, Brother Elephant," said the whale, "and I am the biggest thing in the sea. If we join together, we can rule all the animals in the world, and have our way about everything." very good," trumpeted the elephant, "that suits me, we will do it." Little Brother Rabbit sniggered to himself. "They won't rule me," he said. He ran away and got a very long, very strong rope. And he got his big drum, and hid the drum a long way off in the bushes. Then he went along the beach till he came to the whale. "Oh, please, dear, strong Mr. Whale," he said, "will you have the great kindness to do me a favor? My cow is stuck in the mud, 1/4 of a mile from here. And I can't pull her out. But you are so strong and so obliging, that I venture to trust you will help me out." The whale was so pleased with the compliment that he said, "Yes, at once." "Then," said the rabbit, "I will tie this end of my long rope to you. And I will run away and tie the other end round my cow. And when I am ready, I will beat my big drum. When you hear that, pull very, very hard, for the cow is stuck very deep in the mud." "Huh," grunted the whale, "I'll pull her out, if she is stuck to the horns." Little Brother Rabbit tied the rope end to the whale, and ran off till he came to the place where the elephant was. "Oh, please, mighty and kindly elephant," he said, making a very low bow, "will you do me a favor?" "What is it?" asked the elephant. "My cow is stuck in the mud, about a quarter of a mile from here," said Little Brother Rabbit, "and I cannot pull her out." "Of course you could. If you will be so very obliging as to help me." "Certainly," said the elephant grandly, "certainly." "Then," said Little Brother Rabbit, "I will tie one end of this long rope to your trunk, and the other to my cow, and as soon as I have tied her tightly I will beat my big drum. When you hear that, pull as hard as you can, for my cow is very heavy." "Never fear," said the elephant, "I could pull 20 cows." "I am sure you could," said the rabbit, politely, "only be sure to begin gently, and pull harder and harder till you get her." Then he tied the end of the rope tightly round the elephant's trunk, and ran away into the bushes. There he sat down and beat the big drum. The whale began to pull, and the elephant began to pull, and in a jiffy the rope tightened till it was stretched as hard as could be. "This is a remarkably heavy cow," said the elephant, "but I'll fetch her." And he braced his forefeet in the earth, and gave a tremendous pull. "Dear me," said the whale. "That cow must be stuck mighty tight." And he drove his tail deep in the water, and gave a marvelous pull. He pulled harder, the elephant pulled harder. Pretty soon the whale found himself sliding toward the land. The reason was, of course, that the elephant had something solid to brace against. And, beside, as fast as he pulled the rope in a little, he took a turn with it round his trunk. But when the whale found himself sliding toward the land, he was so provoked with the cow that he dived head first, down to the bottom of the sea. That was a pull. The elephant was jerked off his feet, and came slipping and sliding to the beach, and into the surf. He was terribly angry. He braced himself with all his might, and pulled his best. At the jerk, up came the whale out of the water. "Who is pulling me?" spouted the whale. "Who is pulling me?" trumpeted the elephant. And then each saw the rope in the other's hold. "I will teach you to play cow," roared the elephant. "I'll show you how to fool me," fumed the whale. And they began to pull again. But this time the rope broke. The whale turned a somersault, and the elephant fell over backward. At that, they were both so ashamed that neither would speak to the other. So that broke up the bargain between them. And Little Brother Rabbit sat in the bushes and laughed, and laughed, and laughed.
Thank you very much for watching this video.
Would you please click the subscribe button and the like button? Thank you.